here from Davis Distribution, and I wanted to thank you guys for joining us today on this Luxul training. This webinar today is going to be held by Chris Kovacek. He is our Eastern Regional Manager for Luxul. Many of you have met him at the Davis home shows and spoke with him personally. He's a great asset, gives me incredible tech support. You can reach him at any time. But I'd like to introduce him. Chris, you have the floor. Oh, and one more thing. Sorry, guys. If you have any questions or concerns, please write them out. We'll try to get to them at the end of the training. And if you guys can please keep yourself muted, that way we don't have any background noise. We'd appreciate it. Chris, you have the floor. Thank you.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to entertain me for a little bit. So we're going to go over some stuff regarding Luxul. We're actually going to do two small presentations today, hopefully nothing too boring. We're going to go through what I call the ABCs of why and how to sell Luxul, and then we're going to go over a new product review, stuff that we started showing at CEDIA with some updates on time frames and some of the product information. So I'm sure everybody on this call has sat through many of these webinars or in-person trainings, and they can be quite tedious. I try not to do that. If I fail, my apologies, but I promise you it won't last long. So I'm going to jump right in. The first thing I want to do is kind of go over the salesmanship of Luxul, why we want to talk to our dealers about it, the difference between Luxul and every other networking company in the market. So standard sales protocol dictates that I say, oh, it's just awesome with no meat or potatoes or anything behind it, you know, and some pretty fun graphics. I like to make fun of salespeople because I am a salesperson. So, you know, one of the other reasons we sell Luxul is because it's better. Again, we don't give you any information. We just want to say it's better. And if this sounds familiar, this is what a lot of companies do. Third, because, you know, I'm a good person. And, you know, you always want to sell the stuff, you know, for good people. So, and hopefully I'm not dating myself too bad with this reference here. Draper, Utah. Not quite sure what this has to do with why to sell Luxul, but that actually is our headquarters. And for those of you familiar with jet.com, we share that building with them. It's actually, Draper is considered the Silicon Valley outside of Silicon Valley. So one thing that is important about Draper, all of our tech support, all of our engineers, all the stuff is designed in our headquarters and Draper. So we are a U.S.-based company. So just to cover all the reasons that you should sell Luxul that has absolutely nothing to do with true salesmanship, because that stuff, A, B, C, D, and E. Now, some real reasons. So the first thing we want to talk about is roaming. And for those of you not familiar with what roaming is in the world of Wi-Fi, this is when we have more than one access point in a facility, whether it's a house or a commercial building, and we have multiple points because we need the coverage. So what happens is when you walk in with your cell phone, your phone's going to automatically connect to the first access point that it sees. And as you're moving through the building, you may start getting less signal from that access point and getting more signal from another. Now, I like to use iPhones as an example because iPhones are what we call sticky. They are a stage 5 clinger. They like to grab onto an access point and hold on to it until it literally can't hold on anymore. So as you're moving through a home or a building, your iPhone will actually hang on to that first access point until it reaches absolute dead zero. Now, in the world of Wi-Fi, we reference everything in dB, much like audio. The smaller number is better. So minus 30, great. Minus 100, dead zero. A fun little fact about iPhones, when there are 2 bars of signal strength on Wi-Fi, that means you're roughly at minus 80 dB. And at minus 80 dB, an iPhone cannot transfer data. So while the phone may say we have 2 bars, you can't do anything as far as data transfer. You'll get the buffering circle of death. You will have no ability to download or upload. The other fun fact is you could be standing underneath a secondary access point, and that iPhone's still attached to the original one, even though it's at minus 80. So until it disconnects, you're kind of SOL. It will not automatically move itself. So our smartphones are really actually rather stupid. Android has the same similar problem. It's just not quite as sticky as an iPhone. So there are 2 ways of handling this. Number one is what other companies have termed fast roaming. Now, fast roaming actually isn't roaming. Fast roaming is simply increasing the handoff, decreasing the time for a device between access points. So the way I like to explain it, the easiest way to explain it is when you walk into a building with multiple access points, you're assigned to the first one that you see, and at that time, that access point hands your device a universal key. And that key can unlock any other access point faster than it normally would. Okay? So when you do finally go to a different access point, your phone drops off the network, pops its head up like a little meerkat in the desert, and it sees the next access point, it already has this universal key to unlock it quicker. Now, old roaming used to take anywhere between 1.5 seconds and 3 seconds. Fast roaming takes anywhere underneath 0.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds. So it is much faster, but it still isn't roaming. Fast roaming does nothing to help the client device move between access points. When I say client device, I mean phone, tablet, laptop, whatever it is. So it's important to note that in a fast roaming system, which most of our competition is, there is no actual roaming. It is still up to the client device to make that decision. In today's world, why this is extremely important, Android and iPhone default to Wi-Fi calling. So in a home, if you are making a phone call, unless you have changed the settings, you are on your Wi-Fi network. Now, if you have multiple access points in your home and you start wandering around while you're calling, guess what's going to happen when that phone switches networks, switches access points? It's going to drop off the network. So once it drops off the network to change access points, you're going to drop the call. Same situation for when you're using the phone for automation or any type of streaming for audio or video. When you are switching access points, you're going to get the buffering circle of death. So what we do, and one other company does this, and that other company is Ruckus, is we have a seamless roaming controller, and I call it our wingman. So why I call it our wingman or a relationship therapist, whatever term we want to use, when you go into that building and your phone attaches to the first access point and you start moving through that building, our controller is constantly monitoring the relationship between that device and all of the access points in that building. Now, we can move that device, what client device it is, tablet, phone, or PC, between access points in 3 milliseconds, so fast that it's actually faster than we blink, and it's fast enough that the device never drops off of the network. So we get uninterrupted Wi-Fi calling, we get uninterrupted streaming. How we handle this is an algorithm based on several different factors. So even though you could be at -40 and have great signal, if there's another access point that has even better, we'll actually move the device. It's not up to when the device gets close to being dropped. It's always going to be placed on the best access point possible. Now, there are 2 versions of this controller, and you can see a couple pretty fancy illustrations here. So again, it doesn't matter on signal strength necessarily, or it doesn't matter on location. It matters on signal strength. So we'll always move to the best access point. So 2 versions of the controller. Number 1, in our wireless routers, the XWR1200 and the XWR3150, there is a 2-channel version of this controller built into them. What this means is you can add 2 additional access points to either one of these wireless routers, plug them directly into the router, and you can have seamless roaming between all 3 points, including the wireless router as one. Typically, most homes, since we rate our access points around 3,500 square feet, most homes we can do with 1. A couple times we have to use 2, but this also gives us the advantage of being able to plug in an outdoor access point and have true wireless roaming from inside to out for our customers. The second way to achieve roaming for us is our wired controller, which sits on the network. This is capable of running 16 access points. So in our world of stick-build construction, that is roughly around 50,000 square feet of coverage without ever having to roam or drop off the network. Okay, so roaming, number 1 thing, huge deal nowadays. Second thing I want to talk about is being backed up, and it's not a colon reference. I've gotten that joke several times, so just keep that one to yourself. So what I mean by backed up, 3-year warranty on all Luxul products. Doesn't matter what it is. If it says the word Luxul on it, it comes with a 3-year warranty. We give lifetime free technical support. And the reason free technical support is highlighted, there are companies out there that after the warranty expires on networking hardware will actually charge your dealer if they call in for tech support. So we do not do that. It is free on any Luxul product forever. Also, it's important to note that our technical support, again, is located in our headquarters in Draper, Utah. We do not farm it out. Our tech guys share the same floor space as our engineers. So they have great references if they don't have an answer to the question to be able to get an answer to the question. Also, our design services, customer assurance program, for those of you who are not familiar with this, we will actually design the network in a customer's project, top to bottom, for free to your dealer. So if you go onto our website and go under the support tab, there is a clickable link that says free network design. It's about a 5-page autofill PDF form, which asks questions like expectations from the network, ISP information, the building construction materials, that kind of stuff, and a place to upload plans. Now, they don't have to be architectural blueprints. They could be literally sketched out on a bar napkin as long as we have dimensions. From there, we will design the network top to bottom, everything from router to switch to VLANs to access points, placement, etc. Within 48 hours of submission, assuming it's not on a Friday, so if you submit it by 1 o'clock on a Monday, by the end of business Wednesday, your dealer will get back a 7-page customer-facing PDF with information on networking, router limits, domos, Luxul's warranty, a topographical map of the network indicating the flow of equipment, VLANs, bill of materials, and then a map where to place the access points. If your dealer follows this program and installs the access points where we recommend it, I like to say we are the only networking company stupid enough to guarantee Wi-Fi, because that's what we do. We will actually guarantee Wi-Fi performance if the WAPs are installed to our specifications. If the system does not perform the way we said it would, Luxul will give your dealer any gear necessary to make it perform the way we said it would, free of charge. Okay, so this is a big deal. We are taking the design and the onus of the network off of your integrator. We are doing it for them for free. We are sending back a brochure that is they can hand to their customer and show their professionally designed network. And when they install it the way we say, we're going to guarantee Wi-Fi performance. So this is a huge program. In my opinion, this right here is larger than any hardware that we've rolled out, simply for the fact that you don't have to be a networking genius to do networking. Let us help you. That's why we're here. So there are the D reasons. Again, 3-year warranty. We won a few awards this year. For those of you who've been monitoring CEDIA, a couple for our router and one for our new access point. So, moving on, coverage and clients. So something else we do completely different in the industry is the fact that we use a 1-watt transmitter in our access points. This 1-watt transmitter is in the 1200 wireless router, the 3150 wireless router, the 1510, the 1610, and on the 2.4 band of the 810. The 810 is the only access point we sell that does not have 1-watt transmitters on both 2.4 and 5. It is 1 watt on 2.4 and half a watt on 5. Okay? So why we do this and what is high power? 1 watt is the highest legal amount we can transmit by the FCC. So according to the government, this is as much as we can put out. The closest competition in our industry, in our system of CI, the next highest output transmission power is 0.7 of a watt. So we are 30% higher powered than everybody else. Okay? What this means is less hardware for your dealer. So I hear a lot of things that we get, price comparisons and stuff, but there's a couple ways to combat this. Number one, because our coverage and our 1-watt transmitter, again, we rate all of our 1-watt transmitters at 3,500 square feet of stick build. Okay. The closest competition is 2,700. Right, so big difference. So typically we can handle most houses in the Midwest with simply 1 access point or 1 wireless router. Now we also have the roaming feature, so we can add on to it and actually have seamless roaming if we need to. But the advantage here is if we can do with less hardware, if it only takes us 1 access point and it takes them 2, the price conversation kind of becomes null and void. Because now we're close on the same price of hardware, and they're not running 2 Cat 5s, they're only running 1. And in the other scenario, if they're using the competition, they have to use 2 access points. How are they handling roaming? They're not. Okay, so there are a lot of advantages to going less hardware. Also, we want to talk about client capability. Client capability is something that not a lot of people speak about, and it's extremely important in some people's installations. So A standard access point, if you were to go to Best Buy and buy a Wi-Fi router or an access point, typically has the ability to hold around 35 to 40 clients. That means it can hold 35 to 40 wireless devices before it simply runs out of memory. And the reference I use to this is kind of like your cell phone. Once you get so many pictures on there, it can still hold more pictures. It's just going to be really slow. Now, the olden days of Wi-Fi, meaning about 2 years ago, the simple solution to this was to go power on and power off the access point or the router. It would clear the cache and dump all of the old devices off. What we've noticed, and what you should notice also, are the reason we do this is because, use the example, if you go to your favorite restaurant and they have Wi-Fi, you walk in, you sign on the first time, and you leave. Their network, their router and access point are like a brand new little puppy dog saying, he's coming back, he's coming back, he's coming back, he's coming back, and is doing that and looking for you until you go back. So even though you're not there and you're not on their network, you're taking up a spot of memory. Now think about this in people's homes, because if somebody entertains and everybody comes over, and I use my house as an example, my wife had a party for work a few months ago and 40 people came, and they all brought little kids. And all those kids had devices, and all the people had devices. And at one point I looked down and there were 106 devices on my network. Now, good equipment will delete those devices after a time frame so they're not hanging up on the network. But just recently, a couple years ago, and cheap equipment doesn't delete. So that was the resolution, was to simply clear the cache by powering down the wireless router or powering down the access point and clearing it. Kind of inconvenient for your customer. So what we have done is given our access points and our wireless routers the ability to hold 256 wireless devices, 128 on each band. That's a lot of devices right now. So client capability is becoming more and more of the conversation because of all the devices that now sit on the network. Between wireless audio, between Google or Amazon or Apple or whatever format you're using, between appliances, between mobile devices, it's not uncommon to get in that 50, 60 device range in a home. And if we're using standard APs and less expensive equipment, a lot of the time that client device is around 35 to 40. And I can answer specific questions, but I don't like to bash other companies without being proud to do it. So, client capability and coverage, one of the things. Domos. So I want to speak a little bit about remote management. For those of you who are battling against Arachnus and battling Ubiquity and PackEdge, they all have forms of remote management, either being Oversee, Backpack, or Unified Cloud Service. Now, these are all great systems. They allow the integrator or dealer to monitor those brand of devices remotely using, Wattbox or whatever power system they're using. They can power cycle devices, which is awesome. It helps them eliminate rolling trucks. The problem is it's limited to those devices. So while the integrator may have installed the home theater and automation and everything else, the only thing they can do is monitor those particular brands' devices on the network. Well, Domos is a partner of ours. And the beautiful thing about Domos is it's brand agnostic. It doesn't care who it's made by or what its function in life is. The second beautiful thing about Domos is it's powered by Fing. And for those of you who don't know what Fing is the directory of all things internet. It is a labeling system that uses the MAC ID to identify what a product is. Fing's directory right now is 19.5 billion with a B devices. To give you an idea of where Oversee is in comparison, their directory is 5 million. They're not catching up anytime soon. So the advantages of Domos, number one, when you activate Domos on a network, it uses Fing to automatically identify every single device on the network, whether it's wired or wireless. There is no setup by the integrator, literally no labeling stuff. It's done for them. The second advantage, it can see everything. So from here, as an example, remotely, I could turn up the center channel volume on my Denon receiver. The beauty of this, cable boxes we can see. We can see stuff deeper, like, for example, if I got a brand new 4K TV and I need to change the resolution output on my receiver, that's no longer a truck roll for your integrator. That's simply dialing up through Domos. And they can do all that. So anything with a web user interface, Domos can see and interact with. It also allows us to see through managed switches. And you can get into a really deep dive here, but from here, remotely, I can see my Luxul switch. I can see the access point that it's plugged into on the port, and I can see all the devices that are connected to that access point. So the troubleshooting that Domotz allows you to do is extremely intense. It is a hugely, immensely powerful tool. It's like Oversee or Backpack or Unify on steroids. So this software is built into our 3150 router, our Epic 4 router, and our Epic 5 router. The only router it's not in is the introductory XWR 1200 wireless router. Okay? It's activated through a GUI. There is a one-time activation fee to your dealer. Dealer cost on that is on our website, and we can discuss that offline if you want to get into it more. The last thing I want to talk about as far as selling Luxul or the economics of it. Number one, we are not for sale online. And yes, I know if you get on your phone right now and go onto Amazon, you will find some rogue dealer who's decided to pop up and sell some equipment on there. But it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. Part of my job is to buy that product. We have somebody dedicated to simply buying product all day long and shutting down dealers. We do it on a daily basis. And since we are owned by Legrand, the whack-a-mole hammer we have is a rather large hammer. So we take it very seriously. We do not sell online to third-party retailers. We do not sell to big box stores. We are strictly through the CDA channel. We do protect margins. We do not allow dealers to advertise openly our MSRP pricing even. So if our pricing is up, it should be behind a closed portal for everybody. We are trying to protect margin for dealers, which typically is between 40 and 45 points. It's important to note we are not an end-user product, meaning we are not the competition of the integrator. Companies that sell at Best Buy and sell at Walmart and sell online are, because their customers are shopping them and dictating the price that they're willing to pay. So we are not an end-user product. We do not sell directly to end users. We encourage the CI channel. We want installers. We are trying to protect that particular channel very diligently. A couple other things under economics are router limits and Domotz. Obviously, we spoke a little bit about Domotz. Domotz, when I sell Domotz, I don't sell it as a money maker. It is a time and money saver. The average truck roll costs a dealer $260. That's in CE Pro. So we can save that average truck roll, not to mention the loss of revenue, but the time that it takes. And accordingly, if they're not out making service calls, they can probably be selling and actually make more money. But it is a huge time and money saver. Router limits is the content filtering and screen time monitoring service that is built into every single router that we sell. This is free software that is included. And if you don't know what router limits is, it allows us to monitor traffic on the network and filter traffic on the network, which is becoming a big, big deal. Disney is behind the X-Fi push, where they show the commercial of mom pausing the internet. So it is going to continue to be promoted. It is becoming, screen time is becoming the #1 topic as far as networking, right after security. So a couple things that router limits does differently, though. There are 3 ways to filter content on a network. #1 is by URL. And we can say, for example, I want to deny anybody from going to www.pornhub.com. Well, the reality of the fact is not everybody on this call, hopefully no one on this call, knows the address of every porn site on the planet. If you do, you need to switch to a different meeting, not this one, because there's other issues. So that type of filtering is great for mainstream stuff that everybody knows, but it's not going to be effective. The other way to filter is by keyword. So, for example, if I wanted to filter the word ass off of my network, I could put that on a deny list. But the problem is, if I come home from a hard day's work and I'm a fisherman and I want to go to bassproshops.com, guess what I cannot do? Okay? I put in the word breast. Nobody's searching for a chicken breast recipe on Pinterest. Right? So there are limitations to the way that filtration works as well. The third is web page rating. And much like movies, web pages are supposed to have ratings. Unfortunately, not all web pages play by the rules, and you can imagine which ones don't. And if it doesn't have a web page rating, it defaults to G on most security protocol. So you can see the problem there. So what router limits does, #1, router limits allows us to filter by MAC ID per device on the network. So for example, I have a 14-year-old daughter. She has a school PC, a home PC, a tablet, and a phone. That's fairly normal for a teenager. I can take her 4 devices, put them in a little group, and say, Monday through Friday, from the hours of 3:30 to 5:30 when you get home, the only 6 websites any of your devices can access are school-approved websites for homework. From 5:30 to 8:30, I open it up to PG-13 and under websites, with the caveat that if there's no rating, I want to get a push notification so I can allow or deny. And at 8:31, I want to shut off the Wi-Fi because you need to start getting ready for bed. And teenagers can't do two things at once. Okay? But this doesn't affect any of my devices. It also allows us to monitor network traffic. It also allows us to dive a lot deeper and do separation. And believe it or not, we can actually offer packet security through router limits. And again, this software is free and it's included on every single router that we sell. So content filtering and screen time, two huge things. And let's not forget making money. It's beneficial to all of us. All right, so the ability to roam, backed up through a warranty and tech support and our customer assurance program, our coverage and client capability, domos, and the economics, and yep, I'm still a good person. All right, this is going to be the wrap-up of the sales presentation. So anybody has any questions regarding this, I will gladly take them now before we switch over. Is anybody
if you guys
still
have
awake?
any questions, just put them in the chat. We'll read them off to Chris. Well, I don't see anything out here, Chris, if you want to continue on.
I did such a good job, nobody has any questions. Awesome. Okay. Okay, from start. All right, so we are going to go through the new product release that we started showing at CEDIA. So for those of you who have seen our PDUs, we offer the 3 different versions, the 2-channel, the 8-channel single U, and then the 16-channel vertical. We have now released drivers for all the major control brands for those, so they can be controlled separately through Domos or Control Force Font, URC, RTI, or Crestron. It's available currently. The P40, a couple cool things about the P40. It is our plug-in bridge extender. And what makes this unique in the market is it is a dual-band AC device, but it allows you to select which band you use for the connection to the AP and which band you leave open for data. The common problem with most bridge extenders and even mesh networks are that they use one of the bands strictly for the connection and data. So you're trying to pass both and you're losing half of your bandwidth. So with this device, we can select which band to connect and which band to leave open. A couple real-world applications for this. Number one, video doorbells. A lot of guys are having issues getting Wi-Fi outside of a house, especially if it's brick, concrete, or stucco. So if you were to place this on the interior wall somewhere close to the doorbell, you could actually use the 5G network to connect to the access point and have this broadcast in 2.4, which is better at penetrating building materials. Or if you're doing a Wi-Fi remote, a lot of guys like to have a separate access point strictly for a remote in a room. So you can stick this in a room, use it to connect on 2.4, and then leave 5G open for the remote. It can broadcast its own SSID, so if they want a separate network, that's great, or you can tag it onto the existing one. You'll also notice that it has an RJ45 out, so if you have a device that needs internet connection but doesn't have Wi-Fi and isn't in range, you can actually use this to convert a Wi-Fi signal to a hardline output for like a PC, for example. So allows you to do a lot of different things. It is, excuse me, you can expect around 750 square foot of coverage in standard stick-built construction from this as an access point, but great bridge solution, a lot faster. Throughput is around 180 megabits per second, so it's not slow, pretty quick actually. And retail price on this little guy is $100. So full MSRP. That is shipping now. Okay. Okay. Some components in fiber that have changed. We have always had the termination ends in the SFP modules and cables. We have changed a lot of the part numbers, so it's a little less confusing. For those of you who aren't familiar with fiber, we use fiber to stack switches. So if we're doing multiple switches, it's a 10 gig connection, and in leading up to the future when we start doing fiber switches completely. So this is the protocol for when you're stacking one of our switches. I will recommend, unless you are completely comfortable talking about this, do not hesitate to call into tech support. This is part of the customer assurance program as well. We can walk anybody through this. So here are the new part numbers and new modules, what they mean in real world. A few of the part numbers have changed. Again, we're trying to get them all to the same numbers on numeric systems. So, but those are released, all current now. Everything is shipping. Okay, 2 new switches. The first is the XMS 1208P. This is a very small form factor. It's less than 10 inches wide. It does come with rack mounting ears if they want to use it in a rack. The beautiful thing about this, number one, is 8 ports of PoE. Number 2 is a layer 2, layer 3 switch. It is fanless, though, so it's completely silent. So for occasions where you have a boardroom or a classroom and you need a PoE switch, this is a great option. Good power budget, 130 watts, and it does have 2 gigabit uplink ports. This is starting to ship now in small quantities, and will be available for full shipment at the end of December. So we've got a few in stock. I've actually got one that I'm using. Great switch, works really good. So. The second one is the AMS 1816. Ports on the back for our audio-video series. It is a gigabit switch. It is full layer 2, layer 3. It does have the SFP ports. It is 16 ports of PoE with 18 ports total. And you'll notice on our switches, the numeric numbers like the 2624 or the 4442, the 1816. We have 18 ports total, 16 PoE. The reason we do this is because we know you need 2 ports, number 1 for an input, number 2 for an output. And we don't want to waste real live active ports for that. So there's, on all of our switches, there's 2 extra ports for that kind of stuff when you're looking at PoE. This guy is going to start shipping at the end of the year. And one thing I do want to note on all of our switches, as of last Thursday, we released a firmware called the 4.1.1 firmware for all of our layer 2, layer 3 managed switches. We can now schedule PoE ports on and off. For example, if you want access points turned off overnight at midnight and back on at 8 a.m., we can do that right through the switch. And we added a self-healing version, self-healing software for the PoE ports. What this allows your integrator to do, especially in the world of surveillance cameras, is to set up some terminology where the switch will actually ping the camera, and if it doesn't get a response after a certain number of tries, which is all up to the integrator to input, the switch will actually power cycle that PoE port automatically. So we're trying to take a step out of the integrator getting a phone call if a camera goes down, because 90% of the time if a camera goes down, it just needs the PoE port cycled. So that firmware release was last Thursday, and it is now on all of our layer 2, layer 3 managed switches. So that is a huge selling point for guys doing a lot of camera work. The XAP 1610. This is our latest access point that is finishing up beta currently. It should start shipping mid-December. It is the same size as the 1510. It is a Wave 2 4x4 multi-user MIMO access point. It is the only multi-user access point Wave 2 compatible on the market other than Ruckus currently. This thing is fast. It is taking our flagship place over the 1510. The 1510 will now become our midline piece, and you guys should have seen a price adjustment. We dropped the price on the 1510 in the anticipation of the 1610 rolling out. It is a 1-watt transmitter. It does work with the controller. The advantage being here, now we can talk to 4 devices at the same time. I can tell you I have one in my home, and I'm down on 100 meg service. I'm downloading movies in less than 2 minutes. So very fast, good piece. Once we finish up through beta, again, end of the year, MSRP is going to be at $630. So, and you'll see the price adjustments on everything else. 2610 kit will be 2 1610s and our wireless controller, which again goes up to 16 APs. This does not replace the 2510 kit. This is simply an addition to the line, as is the 260 kit, which is an Epic 3 3150 wireless router and a 1610. Again, no replacements, just new. The 810 we talked a little bit about earlier. is getting a power increase, or got a power increase from up to 1 watt on the 2.4 band and half a watt on the 5G. It's actually a firmware update, so if you have integrators that have 810s out in the field, they can actually download this firmware update and turn the power up on them. So because of this, we end of life the 1410. It is currently shipping, and we did not increase the price on this. WS80 is a replacement of the new 810 and the 1200 kit, and it is shipping now currently. One thing we're pretty excited about is the Easy Setup mobile app. So this will be rolling out probably in January. This is going to be an app that will allow the integrator to install a 3150 wireless router or a 1200 wireless router right from a mobile device. In real time, if there is no firmware update necessary, this literally takes 1 minute and 20 seconds to install a wireless router now. Two things that are pretty cool about this. Number one, it automatically checks for firmware updates. So if it finds that the wireless router needs a firmware update, it will force it to do so. And somebody asked me the question, how long does that take? Well, that is completely up to the speed of the ISP. Number two, when released, you will be able to plug in your access points to the router, and when setting up with this, this will automatically assign those access points to the router. So you'll be able to do multiple access points in the same process. So this should be a big deal when it does roll out, because now we're looking at decreasing the time of installation dramatically. And again, January timeframe. The new wireless controller is coming out, the XWC 2000, same as the XWC 1000 as far as functionality, except it supports 32 access points, not just 16. So again, in our world, stick-built construction, this is now over 100,000 square feet of an active roaming network. It supports all of our current access points. Applications. So this ship date, I'm going to say, quite honestly, is probably going to be pushed into the February timeframe, January, February, not end of year this year. So on the 1000 and 2000, there's new firmware being released probably in about 3 weeks that is going to allow individual channel control. So you can lock channels, or your integrator can lock channels. It's no longer global. Central admin passwords. When it's assigned controller, it will change it to all the access points, not just the controller, and auto-sign AP. So if it sees an access point on the network, whereas now we have to select that in our GUI and move it onto the network, it will automatically assign it. The last one, which has been a popular request, is the transmission power output. So we are going to give integrators the ability to adjust the power output from each AP. Couple reasons for this. Number one, in Europe, we can't sell it over 1/4 watt, so we need to be able to turn that down if we want to continue to be an international company. Number two, and you're looking at condos or apartments, and we're getting into these multi-unit dwellings, we don't access point because then every neighbor is going to see 20 access points. So the ability to bring this down has been a request by a lot of integrators. So that is integrated into this new firmware version, which again should be out in a few weeks. We talked about the 411 update on switches. This is what the interface actually looks like. Scheduling. So again, we can schedule ports on and off at different times. And then the self-healing database. So reference the IP address, startup times, interval, and how many times you want to try before it actually reboots. And that is now. Again, customer design assistance, the free design assistance is our customer assurance program. This is, when I mentioned the topographical map, this is what your integrator gets back. A diagram with a bill of materials at MSRP. If they want pricing on there, if they don't, we can remove that, but it shows the flow of product. You also get the topographical map of the heat mapping, quote unquote heat mapping, where to put the access points, that they can show this information directly to their customer. Again, I encourage everybody to promote this to their integrator. This is a huge benefit to them. Just to a little overview, 40 to 50 points margin, exclusively sold through the CEDIA channel. We do not price online. We are obviously, installation simplicity is a huge point for us. I'm looking forward to that easy setup app, but the changes on the controller are going to make that even easier. And if you hear an integrator say that we're difficult to install, I would challenge that any day of the week. But top to bottom, everything other than a modem, we are a single source for anything networking. So PDUs, switches, access points, routers, and all the interfaces. So 3-year warranty again on everything. And my favorite slide for you guys, personal use program. So we want you to own our stuff. We want you to have it in your house. We give a massive discount for those who want to buy directly through us. You just need to email sales@luxul.com or contact myself. And for those of you who want my contact information, I will gladly give it out after this. But if you email sales@luxul.com, ask for a PUP code, we'll send you the form. Once we verify you work in the industry, we'll send you all the information on how to purchase a product at 50 off dealer. So great discount. We can also do this for your integrators if they want to do like their showroom and stuff. I would suggest working with me on that as well. Sometimes I can even do better. Luxul IP networking courses, these are all available on our website. We do webinars typically 1 to 2 times a month, but these networking courses are always on the website underneath the training portal. So they are available to anybody. They are good. They are not Luxul brand specific either. Some of the stuff is just general networking information. So for somebody who's just getting started, these are a great reference. It's not a Luxul sales pitch. It actually gives them a lot of information useful just simply in networking. All of our how-to videos are also stored on our website in the back of the dealer portal, and they can be found on YouTube as well. Tons of different videos and great information that is a reference for you or your integrator. So Q&A. Does anybody have any questions about product release or anything that we have covered at all, anything we haven't covered at all? I will be happy to address it.
Everyone can feel free to type in the chat too, and I can read it off. Seems like everyone might be good.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for taking the time out of your day. Hopefully this wasn't completely boring and there was some decent information in it for you. Again, if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, I can give you mobile, email, all that kind of good stuff. Here are some basic information for you as far as Luxul is concerned. And if there's nothing else, I'll say thank you and see everybody in person.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Very welcome, guys.